A big week for global fertilizer. The U.S. makes an unexpected call on import tariffs. China stirs the market with fresh export talk. And India's back in the mix with a major tender. I'm Johanna Bota, and joining me today to break it all down for us is Josh Linville, VP of Fertilizer at StoneX. Josh, welcome back. You were very much missed last week.
Hey, I got to take vacation more often. I come back. We finally have some good news for North America farmers. You know what? I'll take vacation more often. It's for the health of the industry.
Well, you were very much needed. So let's discuss the big news, which frankly have caught us all off guard. The US government has decided to remove import tariffs on most fertilizers. Walk us through which ones are exempt and what's been the reaction we've seen so far.
Yeah, so this was something that came out very late on Friday. I mean, this was after 5 o'clock, and most businesses were closed. Most people had gone into the weekend. And so I don't want to say that it was missed, but it was something that it just wasn't during the course of the work week. And all of a sudden, everybody comes back on Monday. And I know I was personally playing catch up and just going through some of the stuff. And all of a sudden, I was like, wait, did tariffs get dropped? And they're like, no, 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 it was just this and this. I was like, reread that. And it's like, oh, oh. And all of a sudden, yeah, now all of a sudden we've been trying to play catch up and figure it out. But yeah, the US government came out and said, we have, this is, I'm paraphrasing, of course, but basically the government, the Trump administration said, we've heard the plea of the farmer. We've heard everybody yelling, screaming, crying about this. We are going to remove fertilizers from the tariffs. And this is for most of the majors when you're looking like urea and phosphate. We don't quite know yet on anhydrous, though that's not as big of a deal because we produce most of what we need here at home. But for the major ones that we need imports on, it's phosphate has been removed, urea has been removed. This is a huge win for the farmer. This is a huge win for the buyer to get this thing back to a step closer to normal. I
Hmm.
need to point out, and I know we're going to talk a little bit about what the reaction has been and how long it's going to be, but it's
Hmm.
important to note this is not the silver bullet. This still does not solve a lot of the global S&D problems that we have. We still have to maintain a price differential to the rest of the world. That does not mean we can move $300 a ton underneath the rest of the world. It's just not how the market is set up. But at this point, with as hard as a year as this has been and as hard as 2026 looks to be, we'll take whatever win we can get. I'm so tired of just nothing but negative stories. We finally have something positive to share. This is a great day.
Yeah. And like you said, obviously, this is a huge win for US farmers. But how much relief can they realistically expect to see and how soon?
Okay, so let's go. I want to look at urea and I want to look at phosphate independently. When we look at urea, what this means is most of the world can now once again start coming in here freely. And people might think, oh, this thing is going to fall through the floor. Unfortunately, we only saw prices move. It was a less than a 10% correction. Prices were down, I'd say 20 to $25 a ton. This was down in the Gulf, right? So that's what we saw there. It wasn't quite the massive move a lot of people had hoped for, but it was a little bit of a correction. Phosphate is where we think there's going to be a better correction. Obviously, phosphate has been a major, major supply problem. Our own production has been suffering from a lot of different problems. Imports have largely been cut off because of countervailing duties, because of tariffs, and the fear of sanctions. Well, now all of a sudden, we were able to sit there before and say, listen, our production's horrible. We've cut off all the major exporters. We're in trouble. Well, this is going to help reopen at least one. It's going to help reopen the supplies from Saudi Arabia. They no longer have a tariff. They were never part of the duties. They're not any part of a discussion for sanctions. Those tons can now start coming here freely. But again, a caveat, as long as our price makes sense and they want to send product here, we have to remember the global S&D is incredibly snug still. Chinese exports have largely gone away. We don't expect to really see them back until after this next spring season. And so globally, things are very, very tight. And if other people start buying, the sellers in Saudi Arabia have options. They can go different places around the world. They do not have to go to the US if our price is not correct. So that said, when you start talking about a 10% uh, tariff being removed on a product that's been trading in the $600-700 range globally,
Hmm.
that's a decent step back. So,
Yeah.
like I said, wins on both sides, not as much as I think a lot of people would like to see, what I think personally we ought to see, but anything is good now. And as far as the timing, it's not going to be overnight. We all know prices are very quick to move higher. They are slow to move lower. And this is not just fertilizer. You see it in lumber. You see it in anything that's a commodity. But if these prices can drop and if they can hold, you should start to see that price decline as we start moving into the winter time, as we start to move into January and February. The Like I said, the markets need to stay down. They need to keep pressure on them, and any single thing can push the thing up. Like we're going to talk about India here in a second with the urea tender, but it needs to stay there and it needs to continue to keep that pressure on the market.
Don't spoil it for our viewers that we're talking about India's urea tender yet again. All right, before we go to India, we've also got some surprising news out of China, because it sounds like they're going to allow another 600,000 tons of urea exports, maybe even twice that. What kind of ripple effects could that have on global pricing?
Another good thing, like I said, I need to take more vacation. It looked like, China, when they were starting to export and we saw them start to, send more out in July, August, and major exports in September, what happened with global prices? They started to see pressure. They started to see a price cap. Those tons being in the marketplace creates a lot of competition. And all of a sudden, your other global sellers have to start worrying about that. Well, October 15th was the end of the date to submit for
Mm-hmm.
exports. There was no extension. Now we have it. They're saying 600,000. There's rumors they may double that to 1.2 million ton. That's more global supply that wasn't expected. That is more global competition that was not expected. And that's something that could very much, again, I think at worst, to help to kind of keep a cap on these price ideas. At best, maybe we see a little bit more pressure as we move into the wintertime.
Okay, and last but not least, India announced another urea tender. No surprise there. They're targeting 2.5 million tons, which is a big number again. Has anything changed in their strategy?
Unfortunately, we can only go 2 for 3 for good news. We've got to talk about the India thing. And I will tell you, personally speaking, I thought that we would see India come back with this tender. Like you said, we've been talking about this
Yeah,
for a couple of weeks now. But we thought it was only going to be about 1.5 million ton, which I thought was a very attainable number. We thought, hey, there's no surprise when they had the shipment window midway through January, 1.5 million would be no problem. They surprised us. 2.5 million is a very big number.
yeah,
My worry with this tender is that large of a number, you have a much higher likelihood you're going to quote unquote fail. It's going to be very hard to get that many tons all in one fell swoop, especially if somebody comes in rather aggressive, like we saw in the last tender on their price ideas. Anytime we see them fall short of their purchase tender goal, the market likes to use that as a impetus to push the price higher. It's a bullish
of
point.
course.
So we'll see how it goes. We got China who's exporting more tons. Maybe they can participate more. Maybe they do double it and they can take care of half of the tons that India is looking for, and the rest of the world can cover that other half. But we'll find out. Offers are due this Thursday, and then we'll find out very quickly on the pricing information. Hopefully, we'll find out tons and things like that. And I'm not quite sure if by the time you and I talk next week, we will have the firm story, but I think we'll be a lot closer to it.
Well, hopefully we will. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, as always, for all your insight. And thank you to our viewers for watching. For more financial content, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel.